I'm Victoria, and this is What Victoria Read. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to talk about my favourite reads of 2021, and I cannot believe it is time to actually do this again. I know most people kind of leave this sort of video until the start of the following year because obviously I'm still reading in December, but I like to kind of have a fresh, clean start, leave this year in terms of my content. So I don't like having I don't want 2021 content in 2022, if that makes sense. So I'm going to talk through the 11 books that have been my favourites so far this year. I choose one from each month, and then I'm going to predict what my favourite read is going to be of December, or like my favourite. I basically picked my favourite book of the month so far. So I've got most of them here. There is one that I don't have because it's out on loan, but I'm just going to talk it through from each month. So I've got my beautiful 2022 book journal here, 2021 book journal even. How have I swapped over already? So in January, my favourite read of January was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. I was gifted this for Christmas, I think, or my birthday. Yeah, it was for my birthday from Amy Myers at Nonfiction Feminist. It's got some weird like shiny thing here. This was incredibly powerful. So Chanel Miller was sexually assaulted by Brock Turner. He was given an absolutely ridiculously low prison sentence for his sexual assault of her, and this is basically her story of what happened to her, what happened that night, and then the process of going through the American justice system. It is incredibly raw. I feel like you need to be in a good mental space to read this, but her writing is incredible. She's a beautiful writer, and I wept reading this book. I was raging by the end of it for her. I just thought it was stunning. It was easily the best thing that I read in January, and easily one of the best books I've read this year. So I would recommend it if you're in the right headspace for it. Then in February, I read a book that was super hyped on Booktube. Let me just check this is February's. Yes, super hyped on Booktube, like Booktube darling. Everyone's obsessed. I got it for Christmas and I was a bit hesitant to pick it up because it's not typically the kind of thing I read. This author is a Booktube darling. I've never read them before and I didn't really know what to expect. And I ended up giving it 5 stars and thought it was absolutely stunning. And that book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I loved this book. This is not my kind of thing. This is kind of like a fantasy, there's fantasy elements to it, I guess, and we've got like bits of magic in it, and it's really long, and we've got a romance, and like none of these things are usually my bag whatsoever. I can't remember who gave this to me. I think it might have been Faye at Mystery Dick with a book. I feel like it was her, but I can't find a gift note. I loved this. Loved it. I've still not read anything else by V.E. Schwab because I've been really slack this year. But we are following Addie LaRue. I feel like everyone knows what this book is about, but I'll give you synopsis anyway. So following Addie LaRue, who is being forced by her parents to marry somebody that she doesn't want to marry, and in desperation she makes a deal with the devil, and she asks to be able to live her own life, and he grants her that wish, but the flip side of it is that nobody will ever remember her. So she lives forever. She lives this really long life, but nobody can remember her. So if she's having a conversation with somebody and they leave the room and come back, when they come back, they won't have any idea who she is. And then in New York, I think in 2018, because we start in France in 1714. And then in 2018 in New York, a boy in a bookshop remembers her, and it's about their story. And I just thought this was stunning. I keep meaning to reread it. I will reread it at some point, but it's one of those that I need a little bit of distance from before I can go through it again. But I adored this. Definitely one of my favourite reads of the year. Okay, then in March, my favourite read of March was Hollowpox by Jessica Townsend. Look at this beautiful paperback edition. I have them in paperback, and I also have this one and Wondersmith on hardback up here. Can't find Nevermore in hardback anywhere, so if the publishers could get on with that would be great. We need a reprint, thank you. This is the third in the Morrigan Crow series, so I can't really say much about this actual book, but seriously, this cover is stunning, and the back. And in the first book, we're following Morrigan Crow, who is a cursed child who is cursed to die on her 11th birthday. Instead, she is scooped up by Jupiter North, who takes her to what's the word? Nevermore. Oh, to Nevermore, where she has to then kind of prove her worth in order to be able to stay. For me, I've said this before, this is my favourite of the three so far. I feel like this is where Jessica Townsend's writing really kind of came into its own. I'm so excited for Silverborn, which is the next book, which comes out next October, November time. I might pop when that book comes out. But this one was just such a joy. It just gave me that kind of childish adventure that I was looking for. It's so cozy, it's got found family, it's got top-notch descriptions of food, which is always a good thing for me in a book. And yes, I had a thoroughly lovely time reading this. Then in April was another book that was a Booktube darling, or is a Booktube darling, and that I was hesitant to pick up, and then I read it and I just had the most wonderful cozy time, and that is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This was everything I was hoping it would be, but even though people had said it was, you know, cozy and lovely and it's found family and all that stuff, I didn't quite believe it till I read it myself. We're following a man who is sent to an orphanage for dangerous children, and it's about what he finds when he gets there, basically. And I thought this was glorious. I've since tried to read Under the Whispering Door by the same author and I just couldn't connect with it, but this one I thought was wonderful and was my favourite read of whichever month we're on now. April, because I know what I'm doing. Right, in May, my favourite book of May was a series that I've read the whole thing of this year, which sounds like a massive achievement, but it actually isn't, because that was Heartstopper, Volume 1 by Alice Oseman. This, again, was Booktube hype that had put me off from reading it. And then I read it and I loved it. And we're following Nick and Charlie, and as it says, boy meets boy on the front. Boy meets boy, boys become friends, boys fall in love. It's just so, it's just got such a place in my heart. I am not ready for the final part of this that's coming next year. I loved it. It was a revelation. It's one of the first, or was it the first? No, one of the first graphic novels I've ever read. Adored it. Okay, so that was May, and then in June, my favourite read of June was Madam by Phoebe Wynne. Now, I have not seen enough people talking about this online, and there should be. Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts was the person that brought this to my attention, and the way she described it made me want to pick it up immediately, which I did. Gave it 5 stars, loved it, favourite read of the month. So we're following a woman who moves to Scotland to this very prestigious, very private girls' school, and it's really hard to get a job there, but she gets accepted, and it's all very old-fashioned and it's all a bit odd, and she starts to explore the school, and there's something going on, and that's all I'm going to say. And it very much reminded me of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, which isn't a book that I loved, but it worked. Some of the things that didn't work for me in Rebecca worked really well here. It also reminded me of Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill. We've also got some slight Handmaid's Tale vibes. It's very kind of gothic, it's feminist, it's a little bit weird, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So if any of those things appeal to you, I would really recommend this, because like I said, I'm not seeing it get enough hype on the Book2Net. So yes, that was that one. So that was June, and then in July, oh yes, these are all my favourite books of the year. My favourite read of July was The Appeal by Janice Hallett, which is another book that's been getting quite a lot of hype, although when I read it, it hadn't been as hyped as it became. This is the stunning Waterstones edition, hardback edition, which is just so beautiful, and it's also got these beautiful end pages. And yes, Janet Hallett, I think this was her debut. I'd never read her before. I'm now going to read everything she writes. So as it says on the front, 1 murder, 15 suspects, can you uncover the truth? And it's all told in emails and letters and text conversations. And at the beginning, you know that somebody has died and somebody's in prison, but you don't know who's dead and who's in prison. And it's about trying to find out what's been going on. And it's all focused on this amateur dramatic society in an English country village. And I just loved it. It's so British in its humour and in the things that happen. I thought it was fab. I did spot whodunit, but that's fine. That didn't, impact my enjoyment clearly. And yeah, I would really recommend this one. It was so much fun, and it was just kind of a really cozy mystery. Let's try not to knock the books over. Okay, so that was July. August. Oh yes. So got 2 books from the same series in this stack, which I wouldn't usually do, but needs must. In August, my favourite book of August was The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter by Theodora Goss. Now, Leanne from Literary Diversions literally made me buy this book. As in, she was like, our friendship's over if you don't read this book. So obviously I read it. and bloody loved it. So this series I find quite difficult to explain, and I feel like Leanne always does a much better job of it. But it is a feminist retelling of classic Gothic literature is how I would put it. We are following Mary Jekyll, whose mother has just died. Her father has been dead for years, and then she gets a letter. Oh no, she gets sent to her mother's solicitor, who says, "Oh, your mother's been paying to this institution for the upkeep of someone with the surname of Hyde." So Mary Jekyll goes to this institution to try and find out what's going on, and there she meets Diana Hyde. And Mary Jekyll is the daughter of Dr. Jekyll, and Diana is the daughter of Mr. Hyde. And it kind of goes from there. We meet various Gothic characters and their offspring. We meet real life people from the period. And it's just this brilliantly feminist adventure story. It's found family. There's also some amazing descriptions of food, which we all know I love. And it's just kind of this romp through Victorian England. And the first story, the Athena Club, as they become, solve the Whitechapel murders. So if you're also interested in Jack the Ripper and those murders, these are in here. We've also got Sherlock Holmes. We've also got the other members of the Athena Club. So we have Catherine Moreau. We have Beatrice, whose surname I can never remember, but she's the poisonous girl. And we just have this, oh, and also Justine Frankenstein. We just have this fantastic collection of characters going on these adventures, and like I said, coming across real life things like the Whitechapel murders, mixed in with characters from stories. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson feature in these stories. They're fantastic. I read it really quickly, and it was my favourite read of that month of August, I think this was. Yes. And then September, I feel like September's the one that I don't have. No, September, I read a book that I've been meaning to read for years. Always loved the film, but never read the book, and that was Chocolat by Joanne Harris. I've never read a Joanne Harris before, and now I want to read everything she's written. Have I read anything else by her this year? No, I have not, but that's one of my ambitions for next year. I loved this book. Somebody gifted this to me, I think, for my birthday, but I can't remember who. Oh yes, this was from Chris on Twitter, who was just doing some random acts of kindness. I adored this. This is about a woman who moves to a small town in France, and she opens a chocolate shop, but she does it just before Easter, and it's basically about her establishing herself in the community, the kind of pushback from the local church, but it's just got this like beautiful natural magic all the way through it. And again, it's about food. I thought it was beautiful. I want to read the others, and it was my favourite read of September. It was like just super cosy and just what I needed at that point in the year. And then October, this is one I don't have. So Catherine House was my favourite read of October. This is currently out on loan with my mother-in-law, I think. And again, it was one that I'd heard really mixed reviews of on Booktube. Some people love it, some people hated it, and I just decided to find out for myself, and it turned out to be one of my favourite reads of the year. So this is set in a exclusive boarding school / college called Catherine House, and if you go there for your 3 years of your education, you're not allowed any contact with the outside world. So we follow somebody as they go into this college, and they've got reasons for why they want to leave the outside world. And things happen, and I just thought it was fantastic. It was so creepy and atmospheric and just really cleverly done. And I think from memory it was a debut novel, and I will definitely be watching for more from the author because it was absolutely fantastic. Then so that was October. Then November, my favourite read of November was, oh yeah, A Still Life by Josie George. My brother gifted this to me for my birthday as part of the books that he gifted me. This is a memoir. So Josie George is writing about her life. She has chronic illness, and it's basically a year in her life, and it's just absolutely stunningly written. She's a poet, and you can really tell. And she's very open and honest about what it's like to have a chronic illness and the frustrations of that, but also she focuses on the beauty of certain things, so the beauty of living a slower life, and we follow, yeah, like I said, a year in her life, and it was just stunning. It made me cry, and it made me laugh, and it kind of left me with this much stronger understanding of what some of the people in my life who have chronic illness go through on a daily basis. And yeah, absolutely beautiful. Would highly recommend this one. Obviously all of them I'm recommending, but this one was just really something special. And now on to December. So I'm filming this on the 20th of December, so we've got, what, 11 reading days left of the month? Wow, that's a bit scary. There's quite a lot to do at that time. But I am predicting my favourite read of December, and we'll see if I'm right when we get to the end of my December wrap-up, which you'll see at the start of January. And that is European Travels for the Monstrous Gentleman by Theodora Goss. So this is the second in the Athena Athena Club books. It's huge, okay? There's no getting away from the fact this is a beast. I read it on audiobook. This is almost 700 pages. I read it on an audiobook, which was 26 hours long or something. Highly recommend the audiobooks. This was the first one of the series I picked up on audiobook. It's read by Kate Redding, who does this incredible job of doing all the voices. And this is the second one. I can't really tell you anything about it because it will give spoilers for the first one. But we do meet a whole load more people in this one. We meet Irene Adler, we meet Freud, we go on, as you would guess, a European adventure. There's a lot going on. And I think this is going to be my favourite read of December, but we will see. So those are my favourite reads of 2021. And as I said at the beginning, I cannot believe it's time for this video already. Please drop me a comment and let me know what some of your favourite reads have been this year, because I always love the comments on this video because I always add stuff to my TBR list from it and they're usually real gems. So let me know what your favourite book has been so far this year, or some of your favourite reads. If you made it to this point in the video, leave me a feather emoji or a bird emoji if there's not a feather, because I actually haven't checked, just for this glorious cover. Please subscribe if you would like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks everyone. Bye.